how a raw food diet healed us. So welcome, Gracie.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So my name is Sky. I was sick for 32 years and raw foods healed me. I've had like over 60 surgeries, 7 major organs removed. And Gracie, you're so young and you healed yourself with raw foods. And I think that's absolutely incredible. Do you want to share a little bit of your story?
Well, I went raw about a year and a half ago, and I started to eat vegan food over 2 years ago. Before that, I ate standard American diet, and then I went through a high protein phase where I was eating about 150 grams of protein a day and working out in the gym a lot. And although this really made my body look toned and muscular, it really damaged my liver and it really damaged my organs. And so I developed chronic constipation, acne, like a general, when waste is stuck inside of you, it affects the rest of your body so negatively. And that happened to me at such a young age. And I was like 16, 17, having all these problems. And everyone else that I knew was running around happy, and I'd be at home, not going to the party because my stomach hurt. And this is how it was for all of high school for me. And I realize that it's common now because of the way the food is nowadays, and also because of the propaganda being spread about protein, I would say, like a high protein diet. So I
Yeah.
decided to go raw and vegan pretty much around the same time. I was vegan for not too long before I decided to take the step to raw because I knew in my heart that it would like heal me. I had a feeling because it's
That's
the raw foods are the purest foods from nature.
They are. I think even before we were just talking about this in
Mhm.
another podcast, that before you get to the science of
Mhm.
food, I, raw foods and their impact hasn't been studied. And even if it is, I always
Mhm.
feel, and I think you agree with me,
Mhm.
there's so much more to it. If you eat
Oh
just
yeah.
raw foods, the way you feel is electric. It's like
Mhm.
unmatched. If you even gave me water and supplements of the same vitamins,
Mhm.
I wouldn't feel the same. And
I
I
know.
believe that that level, like that, it creates like a consciousness, a vibrational energy which
Mhm.
lifts me to heal. Did you experience that?
I feel the same exact way. It's like a electrical force.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's you get a different electrical force from each different fruit too, and each
Yes.
different raw food. And it's
Yeah.
very beautiful. And you can't replicate it with supplements at all because you could take a
No.
liquid IV and you could drink a coconut
It's not
water,
the same.
and the feeling is very different,
Oh.
even though they are supposed to do the same thing.
And I think people who aren't
Mhm.
raw can't understand that
No.
before the Coke, I've been to say I'm dehydrated for some reason, I've
Mhm.
upset stomach, and I drink the
Mhm.
coconut water before or at the same time that the dehydration goes.
Mhm.
This reality comes over me, this brand
Yeah.
new reality from the
Yeah.
food, which takes me to a place where it's like a place to heal. Like it's like when you get in tune with your body and put the raw
Mhm.
foods that you're called to in, it's like a
Mhm.
vibrational force,
Exactly.
electrical force where you can
Yes.
go to heal. And anytime I've been tried to be healed any other way,
Mhm.
which has been very dense reality, whether Western medicine, dried things,
Mhm.
it is not the same as
No.
reaching into this electrical realm that you get to heal in, right?
It doesn't feel natural to do any other sort of healing. And especially the high protein that I was doing, it didn't feel natural. And I felt like anxious, I remember. When I was eating a
Yeah.
lot of meat, I would feel way more high strung. And I thought, oh, it's just my hormones. But my hormones were imbalanced because of that, is what I didn't realize. And that's what foods that are corrosive to our body can do over time, and raw foods just do the opposite. They like unravel all of the damage that's been done, and they go in, especially the herbs too,
Yeah.
and feel
Do you know,
naturally. Mhm.
yeah, that's in alignment with yourself. It's like I felt
Mhm.
like I was discovering myself. But what I think is really hard when I think back to school and being young and now
Mhm.
so you are, is that if something's in trend, you by default become it. So
Yes,
back when I was
exactly.
at school, is I'm not
Mhm.
conscious that I am doing what my friend. Like if I look back at
Yes.
photos, we're all dressed exactly the same, but in
I
my
know.
head, I thought I had like a personalized outfit on, but we're all brainwashed. So if someone's being told to
Mhm.
eat protein, you'll only be skinny. If you eat protein, you're only going to get
Yes.
fit if you eat protein. How does one at that age, at your age, break
Exactly.
free or see the
Hmm.
reality that that's to find yourself? Like, how did you break
Yeah.
free and see that?
It was honestly my mom. She was
Yeah.
like, completely coming out of left field and saying health advice to me that was completely different than I've ever heard in my life. Like if I ever went to the doctor and I said, "Oh, I feel so bad. I feel bloated and tired." They say, "Okay, you need to start going for a run 5 times a week." And I was like, "I'm 15, 16. I can't, I don't want to do that. Besides, I'm tired. I don't have the energy." And then my mom would say, "Maybe you should just try eating mangoes for one day and see how you feel." And I was like, "Just mangoes for one day? Like, you're weird." I always thought my mom was weird because she was into raw foods, and I didn't
Yeah.
understand because I felt fine. And I think this is how a lot of people are, is they feel fine, so they can't understand why you would do anything differently.
That's right. And I think that brainwashing makes that we were just talking about, like when you're
Yeah.
at school, as I said, is it was trendy
Mhm.
to wear denim skirts, little white
Mhm.
tops. In the 90s, you didn't want to put on too much weight. People barely ate, I think, in the 90s.
Mhm.
And you're in a generation where there's protein, protein,
Everyone
protein.
wants to be muscular. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
different.
how your mum is saying for one day eat mangoes. If I'm at
Mhm.
school and somebody said that to me, I'd be
Mhm.
like, that's crazy. How
Yeah, that's what.
did you try it?
I did that at high school. One day in high school, I just brought mangoes, and then I just ate that. And all my friends were like, "You're so weird, Grace." And I was like, "Yeah, but this is what's gonna heal me." And nobody understood, obviously. Like it was just completely out of left field. But it was a really powerful time for me, and it still is, to reclaim my individuality. Because when you're young, it's like you said, it's so easy to just fall into trends and patterns and to not really have your own mind because it's scary.
I think we're so what we don't realize in high school and going into college is that we're so traumatized.
Yeah,
The
I know.
reason we are grasping on to what media says is because we're already traumatized,
Mhm.
and that has come from the lifestyle we lived. And it's no fault of any upbringing, or it's really
Mhm.
like in schools or around. It's not your fault. But if you can find yourself, that's what I feel like.
Yes.
I went on the raw foods. Is like I didn't know
Yes.
myself,
Me
no idea.
neither at
I
all.
didn't,
It was like a
and
cloud was there.
yeah, and
Mhm.
like so you're like grasping on to try and identify with something
Mhm.
in a physical reality because spiritually you don't know yourself. And then I remember, I think that's why people when they go raw go quite light for a period of time, not only to
Yes.
heal, but who am I? Like
Yeah,
when
exactly.
you get rid of like the shampoos, the moisturizers, the
Mhm.
makeup,
Mhm.
you're not indoors, you're outdoors, and you've just
Mhm.
got lots of fresh fruit, herbs,
Mhm.
and juices. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is life.
Yeah, you're like, this is how it feels to be a human animal and not like,
Yes.
yeah, not playing a part all the time and worried. That's the thing. That was the major emotional change that happened once I went raw, is I wasn't so anxious. Like I finally could like breathe and look around and not feel like a scared like animal all the time almost. And that's part of being young too, but I think it's also diet related because of the
Uh,
trauma of the
100%. I
animals.
didn't know you could live and not be anxious. I thought
Me
anxious was
too.
like I knew something was wrong, but you
Yes,
don't know what to do. you feel
exactly.
you feel trapped, and that gives you more anxiety, and then you eat
Hmm.
because you're anxious, and then that gives you more anxiety, and you
Hmm.
never know. And when you're free of that, and that raw journey, plant-based journey, can look different for every person, but when you hit that, I remember I was about 3 weeks in and sitting in the sun, and I was like
Hmm.
eating really like just all mostly watery foods and a little bit
Hmm.
maybe like a turmeric powder or something. And I realized the voice in my head wasn't putting me down. It wasn't saying bad words.
Exactly.
Quite often it was telling me, I love you. I love the sun. It kept
Yes,
saying, I love this. I love that. I
it's
love
positive.
you. I love. And I
Hmm.
was like, this is no, I'd been at psychologists and psychiatrists most of my life, and
Hmm.
that hadn't done anything. But here I am. So it was at the start, it was for me like that nature and food. And then I
Hmm.
realized it feels so normal when you actually get on the raw foods
Yes,
and you have gone past that detox phase or that transition
yes,
phase. It feels natural. Like it feels, you're just like,
exactly.
aha.
Yes, you just feel like a like you drank coffee, but without all the come down and all the like messed up, anxiety. It's like, but you feel like, wow, like there's a engine in your heart, like revving up. That's how I feel.
That's right. Well, I think because when you have coffee, when you first
Mhm.
have it, you become
Mhm.
present. And
Yes.
you get a rush of dopamine, and you
Yes.
actually relax as well because you get like
Mhm.
vasodilation and you get a lot of blood flow.
Mhm.
And so we keep chasing things like drugs, right? Like coffee,
Mhm. Because
because
we are
for a
supposed to
few
feel good.
moments, yes, we
Yeah.
feel present, but then you're on the raw
Yes.
food, then you're always present and you're
Mhm.
always saying, I love this, I love that. Um, and it's like, it's the best. It's like there's no, I remember, and that's why when you first go raw, is you want to
Mhm.
shake people and go, this
Yes.
is it, I found it. And like eventually you realize people are on their own journey. But when you first
Yes.
start, it's like you want to go to everyone and go, it's raw
I did
food,
that.
it's raw
Yeah.
food.
I definitely did that too much, and people were like, "Okay, she's crazy." Because it's a lot of people don't ever want to take the leap because they don't feel bad enough, I think. Like they're not sick yet, especially people my
I
age.
agree. I agree. And there's a
Yeah.
comfort in trauma bonding and like
Mhm.
a huge part of getting to where I got to was the
Mhm.
fabric of reality had for me already broken down.
Yes,
I was
me too.
dissociated already. I was high plant-based,
Mhm.
and raw foods brought light into a world which had I do feel there's a divine timing for when you cross over
Mhm.
into raw foods because it's so
Yes,
spiritual.
it's
Um,
extremely spiritual. It's a spiritual awakening as well at the same
Oh,
time.
100%, and what
Mhm.
everything you've known, you all
Mhm.
of a sudden realize is not true. There was a
Yes.
reel or an ad that I used to post, and it must have been a movie from the 80s or something where a
Mhm.
guy puts on glasses. So you've got the advertising down the streets, you've got the
Mhm.
smell of, like, pizza coming out, you've got the fancy cars, and he puts the glasses on, and all of a sudden, the smoke coming out of the car looks like poisonous green fog. The advertising that
Yeah.
which says you want me type hamburger says this is death, like or eat cancer. It was like
It's so
these
good.
reality goggles, and that's
Mhm.
exactly what happens. You see truth everywhere. Things that
Yes.
you used to just pick up, like a coffee, you pick up.
Yeah.
You see toxicity. You pick it up,
Yes.
and you can feel the vibrational energy now.
Mhm.
It's like you enter, and that isn't for everyone.
No. And it's like your body becomes so sensitive too that you can't even go back. Like I
Yes, and that's
couldn't.
another
Yeah.
thing, right? That's
Yes.
hard.
Mhm.
It's a battle in itself
Mhm.
and that's why I really promote, and I see you do it as well, is
Mhm.
falling in love with this lifestyle, because if
Yes.
you do it from fear and
Mhm.
then the opposite of
I
that
agree.
is going back, you will just be very anxious. Like, you have to
Yes.
find, and some people that's really high fruit and fasting, some people
Mhm.
that's denser, more gourmet
Mhm.
food, some people it's still a
Mhm.
few cooked foods, but
Mhm.
that love, it's about
Mhm.
finding self-love.
Yes, it is. It's more than just discipline or like committing to a diet. It's not just that. It's so much more. Like it's an experience of life that you get to have because of the food. And it's a completely different experience. It's almost like the glasses. Like you put on the glasses and everything's beautiful. And it's like you see things so differently. And I've never like been connected to nature like I am now. Like when I used to eat whatever I wanted, I would go outside or eat the standard American diet. I would go outside and I'd like get uncomfortable and want to go back in. I wouldn't want to
Yeah.
sit in nature. I couldn't like look at it. I didn't want to spend time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
our reality is
Mhm.
completely dependent on the food we put in our body. Because,
Yeah,
and as much as people say
completely.
it's not, it's even when, for some reason there's like a shifting in my life, you will
Mhm.
notice that the foods I eat are denser if I'm inside
Yeah.
more. In summer, it becomes lighter. There's a
Yeah.
complete correlation. If you want to get raw, you're going to have to be
Mhm.
outside more. When I used to sit on the grass, I'd get itchy.
Mhm.
Be in the sun, you get
Yeah, me
all
too.
toxic rashes. You
Mhm.
can't be in nature because you've got no nature in you. I was full of like
Mhm.
pharmaceuticals and chemicals, and I was a smoker, and
Oh, yeah,
so
me too.
when you do that, yeah,
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
be around like that.
You're toxic.
Yes,
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
toxic. That
Yeah.
Britney Spears song, I'm
Yeah.
toxic,
It's
and
like
like
a
so you have
vampire
to be
going to the
around more
sun.
toxic.
Yeah.
Like, you literally, I always think like it's literally like you're a computer, and a
Mhm.
computer's hard drive, it's all empty until you put the
Mhm.
operating system and the software and the apps in, right? And that
Mhm.
is done by the food. The food is that information. You realize
Mhm.
that when you start eating the raw foods. And then all
Exactly.
of a sudden, you can change the programming, the operation system, the software
Yes.
that comes out of this computer. And the sun is the electricity. So you don't want to be indoors around this electricity because, and then eating rotten food, because your computer will just be like viral. It becomes get
Yeah.
viruses. But if you go outside and you have like pure raw foods and you get your electricity from the sun, the downloads, the
I
software, the
know.
operating
It's
system is
insane.
like, it's like the cloud.
Yeah.
We're taking this analogy really far here, but
No, but
it's
it's
like it's the
true.
most beautiful experience.
It's like once you it's exactly when you start going outside getting the downloads from the sun. I didn't even think to talk about that, but that's my mom and I talk about that all the time because every morning we wake up and we get our journals and we go sit outside in the sun and we're always fasted. And so we sit there and we like come up with ideas for our videos for the day. And if I don't do that, I don't get my ideas the same. They're not like, you know what I mean? It's not as
Yes.
yeah.
So all of my recipes, the
Mhm.
combinations, the way they are,
Mhm.
they have only come, even if I get inspiration from a reel or a cooked video I see, it
Mhm.
all pretty much comes from information I've picked up outdoors. The more time I
Mhm.
spend outdoors, the more successful I am when I do what I do. And you
Yeah.
do have to find balance, because if you just had like fruits and sat in the sun, you wouldn't come in. So you do
Mm.
have to have some denser, more grounding
Mhm.
foods.
Yes, I
And
agree.
to find your balance or your space with what you want to create with your life. Some people do
Yes.
want to go to a tropical island and just sit there and eat fruit,
And
and
just
other people,
yes.
yeah, and I get that. But
I'm gonna do
when
it too. I haven't done that yet.
I was watching, I think it's called, they're called Fit Shorty. Have you
Oh
heard of
my
them?
gosh. Yes. My mom
I
and I
was
are
like
always watching their
binge
videos.
watching. And
Yeah. We're like,
they've
oh
been
my
from Vietnam to Thailand and all the tropical fruits, and I just sat there and I lost reality. I was like just sitting there watching all of these fruits that I've never experienced and watching them touch them, and I'm like,
do we all do
I'm
this?
feeling the calling. It's like
We
the
all do this.
secret little vegan thing we do.
We're all
We go
hooked on
binge
Fit
watch
Shorty
people
videos.
eating tropical fruits.
Yeah, I do that
And
a
they're like,
lot.
it tastes like chocolate. And I'm trying to imagine it. And I'm like, I can feel a calling coming where I probably
Yeah.
want to go for a period of time to
Yeah.
do that again. But there's like it's what you will learn. Like
Mhm.
probably the most magical imprinted healing surreal experience I have had was when I went to Bali. I was already high fruit. When I got there, I ate tropical fruit. I was in my
Oh
swimsuit
my
the
gosh.
entire time in the sun eating fruit, and you don't need to really even do anything because you're just already
Wow.
floating like that. And that's
That's
power. That
amazing.
is probably the
That's like
most powerful
ascension.
experience. Yes.
Wow.
Hey,
Oh my
Jen. There's
gosh.
also
I
a
want to do
comment.
that.
Yeah, we should do it. We should meet up and do it. I'm actually trying to organize. It'd be great for lots of us to go to somewhere. We're going to do somewhere cheaper, like Bali or something. We just get like a group house
Oh,
and we go
oh
into
my
the
gosh. I want to
the
go.
jungle and eat fruits.
Mhm. That sounds like
So
paradise.
yeah, so I saw this. Hi, it's amazing. Raw foods can heal, being the opposite to what
Yes.
Ayurvedic diet approach prescribes. Do you want to talk on that?
That's so true. Yeah, I've looked into Ayurveda a lot and I've been interested in it. And I always wondered why raw foods worked and why I wasn't called to Ayurveda. And I think it comes down to natural hygiene, really. Like to cooked food versus raw food. Because even though Ayurveda says not to eat salads and instead to eat like lentil dal or something really warm, the
Yeah,
warm foods don't whenever I would eat that, it didn't digest for me at all. Like,
yeah,
because I used to when I was vegan, I ate curry like every day. That was Indian food was my favorite. I was pretty much eating Ayurvedic, no liquid with your meals, nothing cold. And it didn't
yeah,
I felt tired and I felt like
yeah.
inflamed, like puffy. That's the thing about cooked food. I feel like it's puffy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
It's
do.
just
So
yeah.
what I think about things like this is when things like this are
Hmm.
made, they have brought someone to a certain level. Like if you're eating a
Hmm.
standard American diet and you go into somewhere like
Oh
India or
yeah.
wherever you go and do this diet,
Yeah.
you're going to go, this is amazing. I feel so much
Hmm.
better than I did.
Even if
Plus,
you do
there's lots.
carnivore,
True.
you'll
That's
feel
because there's
better.
lots
Yeah.
of there's also with Ayurvedic, there's lots of like oil
Mhm.
treatments and like
Yeah.
taking a lot of time for yourself and
The face
massages.
massages. Hmm.
Yeah. So there's a whole process. But the biggest thing I
Hmm.
learned, because I was vegan whole food,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
was too sick still, and so I was eating raw foods, and I got up and could do a couple things. And because I
Mhm.
had energy back, I cooked, just dry roasted some pumpkin, garlic, basil, and tomato on a a
Mhm.
tray. Not
Mhm.
just like, so it's done, dry, no oil,
Mhm.
ate it, couldn't
Mhm.
get up for 4 days.
That's exactly.
So that's when I was like, there's something to it. Eat the
Mhm.
raw foods. Then I steamed, I think it was some cauliflower, maybe a bit
Mhm.
of, then I think, no, I steamed it and I had it with
Mhm.
like turmeric or ginger or something tossed through it. Couldn't get up
Mhm.
again. But like if you have chronic fatigue, well, any disease, but like the chronic fatigue, the
Especially
depression,
that. That's how I was
fibromyalgia,
on that.
yeah,
Mhm.
that you're sitting in that space. And in my
Mhm.
experience, what I notice about that diagnosis, and that falls into the POTS, the
Mhm.
ADHD, and then some people get things like diabetes. To me, that falls
Mhm.
into people who are, oh, what's the word? I've lost the word here. Um, what's the word when you're emotionally connected to everything?
Oh, empathetic
Empaths,
or
empaths. You
sensitive? Yeah,
find
empaths. Yes.
empaths. It's
Mhm.
usually the reason they feel those things is all those systems are clogged, and people who just don't have
Yeah.
access to those systems will never feel that they're living in depression and anxiety and bad digestion because their body isn't they're not as sensitive to those systems. But you really notice that people who have those sort of diagnoses, I believe they're like a sensitivity.
Mhm.
Um, and the best way, it's like most empaths you find have become things like drug addicts or seeked out things like coffee. And
Yes,
it's because they are
exactly.
very good at trying to find a way to up their vibration. They're trying
Mhm.
to find it,
Mhm.
they haven't found the right way. So you find a lot of people
Yes.
that come into this lifestyle have come from, they're very aware of their addictions, but those
Yeah.
addictions are usually driven by wanting to uh, up what they
Yeah.
have had power
Yeah.
in noticing, right?
Yeah. The way that we naturally should feel. It's like,
Yes,
intuitively we know that we're not supposed
yes.
we know that this is not normal, like, from a young age. I feel like everyone
It
does, but it's how willing you are to accept it and how much hope you have, honestly. In like, "Oh, can I be better? Can I feel better? Is there a way out?" And a lot of people that I know who I think are really cool free spirits, they're like, "No, there isn't a way out." And it's this negative energy, and a lot of really sensitive people fall into that too. And I used to feel like that. I used to be like super rebellious, upset, rejecting everything about society because there is a lot to reject, but there you don't have to choose the path of hatred towards it, is what
and
I
that
was
is
really beautiful. Mhm.
and I think that's what you have to do when you
Mhm.
become, raw, is accept
Yes.
love. It's part of that healing. Can you just hang on 1 second? I'm so
Mhm.
sorry. I'm at my mum's and the dog needs some water.
No, it's okay.
Bear with me 1 second. I'm coming back here. Um Yeah, I think the biggest thing I noticed when I went raw was that love aspect, was that the food made me feel this love and appreciation for myself. And I grew up as well a lot of the time being told I was arrogant from a young
Mhm.
age if I ever put myself first. From a young age, we're already struggling.
Yeah.
And
It's,
if we
especially as women.
yeah, and
Yeah.
if we go, "I want to do that." Well, did you think about your friends or did you
Mhm.
think about such and such? And then you
Mhm.
feel bad and shut down and you shut yourself down, but
Yes.
what I realize, and a good example is this, is when I get well and the family's like, "Are you coming to this family day?" And most
Mhm.
people would, if they're still sick, would still push through, and I used to push through and take medications or use my walking stick or whatever. And I got to this point where I realized I'd worked so hard on myself. If an environment was going to bring me back down, I was not walking into it. If you put that much effort into yourself, you will just, no.
Mhm.
Or I would go for a short period and be around them. And just
Mhm.
because it's a different, if you've just committed to being raw and you've come from massive addictions like mine, being around food like that is not something you want to do for a long period, especially when you're just first raw. And it's
Mhm.
about acknowledging that this is part of the journey to learn boundaries, to say no, and that we're here to first
Yeah.
off, love yourself. And anything I give, like podcasts or
Mhm.
coaching or reels is an overflow. So I've filled myself with love,
Exactly.
and everything everyone else gets can only ever be an overflow. If I start coming from
Mhm.
lack, then I'm just hurting myself and the world.
Yeah,
Like, that's a huge lesson for
that's
me.
so true. That is a really good one because there's a conditioning that like we're supposed to be overextending ourselves and we're supposed to be like tired and we're supposed to be doing a million things at once for everyone else. That's like sort of the image that it's like the 1950s housewife. Like what does she have for herself, you know?
Just wanna That's right. It was almost like I also have, I think I still battle with it a bit, not as much, but it will come
Mhm.
up and you don't know it's there, that I don't feel I'm succeeding in
Mhm.
life unless I'm
Mhm.
worn out to the bone.
Yeah,
And that's
I totally
because
have that.
that's how I
Yeah.
felt in school, that's how I
Mhm.
felt when I grew up, that's how I felt in doing
Mhm.
anything. A
Mhm.
successful day, and I didn't work very long because I was mostly sick. A successful
Mhm.
day was only when I was so exhausted
Yeah.
that I could almost complain about it.
Yeah.
Then you've worked hard. That's what I thought, work was, whereas now I am
That's
quite
more
happy.
natural. Yeah.
No, I'm quite happy to take some time off and even say to
Mhm.
clients or a podcast, I'm gonna postpone for a couple of
Mhm.
days. So
Mhm.
when I come back, you get the best me because I've got the best me. And we need
Exactly.
to be more like that. Like, and
Yes.
that's, and I work in an industry which is health based, so it's
Mhm.
much easier. But it's funny. It's not funny, but
Mhm.
it was just so interesting how I can find myself going back where it's like, you're burning the candle, you're just not eating,
Mhm.
running your coffee. Not now, but like,
No,
and
I
then
know
that was
exactly
like,
what you
I
mean though.
pushed myself. I worked, instead of working like 8 hours a day, I worked
Mhm.
12 hours that day, and
Mhm.
that's success. Whereas now I'm like, I'm better off working half a day, looking
Yeah.
after myself. So when I work, you get an overflow.
Yes, and that's a big part of aging too. And like chronic stress causes like health problems. Even if you're eating the perfect diet, if you're chronically stressed, there's no way. Because that's
Yeah,
why cancer forms. That's
that's
why we
right.
become backed up. It's energetic. It's not
I was
just
about to say, yeah.
yeah,
It's like
it's not
that
just
if
food.
you move away from thinking that we're just physical and think that we're energy, and
Mhm.
anything that throws that out of balance or out of
Mhm.
into acidity, you could call it, or into inflamed, or that
Mhm.
field is beautiful, and then stress makes it not. It makes it look
Yes.
rigid and
Especially if you're fasting.
broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if
Yeah.
you keep doing that, even if you eat perfect, you will
Mhm.
break what we see as physical. So the
Mhm.
more we think in energetics, whether that's electricity,
Mhm.
spiritually, just like the idea of like the vibration, you wanna
Mhm.
keep your vibrational bubble happy, and that's
Mhm.
balance, like no stress, you've gotta have
Yeah.
movement, you've gotta have food which suits you, and that
Yeah.
means as well not overdoing it with things like fasting or detoxing.
Mhm.
You want to get that, because then you break that field again. I was just talking about how
Yes.
I used to, like, even exercise creates metabolic
Okay.
waste. So I have to be careful not, knew I
Mhm.
was doing it. I didn't at the time, but make sure I don't, because that's inflammation and the
Mhm.
field will make you sick like that.
Exactly. It's so true. Yesterday I pulled myself in hot yoga because I went to my second class of the day and it was I pushed myself and I shouldn't have,
Yeah,
you know? And so I know it's like a programming that we all have that's like work, 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 especially in the US. It's like you want to be because the people who made the society want us to be the perfect workers. They want
sure.
us to work ourselves to the bone and they want us to be so tired that we can't even think above the situation. And that's just it's not once you go raw, you kind of realize this, but I didn't even think about it before, at all.
Yeah. Well, and also, I know,
Mhm.
Jen was saying before about how she goes, I have all this energy to make all these reels and things like that. And I
Mhm.
noticed when I had my broken toe and I was on some opiates for a couple of days for the pain, and I went back to coffee. I've spoken about it for a few days. It made me
Mhm.
really sick. But how you only have energy to get through a day. You have
Yeah.
no more energy for free thinking,
Oh, it's like
for
yeah.
self-love, for
Mhm.
nature, for your
Mhm.
bottom to even sit on the grass. You literally are going, it's like that path of like least effort. You can call it
Mhm.
ADHD, but it's this path of least effort where it's like, I could come in here and like bring lots of energy,
Mhm.
play with the dog a bit, look outdoors. But when you're in that denser reality, you come out here and you can barely flop on the
Yeah.
lounge.
You
And
just
you
wanna
leave
lay down.
glasses, yeah, you just leave mess everywhere, which then creates
Mhm.
later you trip over things. But it's interesting
Yes.
how when you free yourself,
Yes.
you you live. You don't just
Hmm.
like, you actually like get to create and
Yeah.
share.
And I know that has nothing to do with just the raw foods too, because I was working a full-time serving job and going to school full-time like recently. And that was like the worst out of all my time raw, that was the worst I felt by far. And the only reason I could do it is because I was raw. But I started to get acne and like just
Wow.
yeah, like become inflamed and I was eating perfect.
Yeah,
And
what
it's like it was so, and especially when they would make the fries, like the fumes coming at me, it's just, but I mean, if I want to go on my vacation, I have to work for it, but still, it's like it was so much stress on my body and on my spirit that I felt exactly like you said. I just like work, go right to bed, work, go right to bed, and there's no room. There's no room
yeah.
for yourself at all, and it's very sad. It's that's how most people are living.
That's right. The good thing about doing it on raw foods, and this is what I've
Mhm.
learned, if you do something which is wrong for you on raw foods,
Mhm.
eventually it'll
No.
get so obvious. Like you
Yeah,
won't be able to stay doing it.
that's why
Like
I quit.
yeah, like good. Like it gets so obvious that when something isn't in alignment,
Mhm.
and that's a gift. So a lot of people don't realize, but when you go on raw foods,
Mhm.
not only you change, your entire life will change.
Mhm.
So things that used to be in it before will not be in there, whether
Mhm.
that's people, circumstances, and it feels like your entire reality breaks away. It's massive.
Yes, it gets like destroyed and rebuilt. That's exactly what happened to me. Like by
Yes.
there was even a month that I just was like alone, just fasting alone. Like I came, my mom lives like away from the city in the mountains, and for a whole month after I got back from, I went on this like backpacking trip with all my friends, and then I came back home and I just didn't talk to anyone. Like I just was up here in the mountains in the clean air fasting, and it was like the best time of my life.
Yeah,
It's
that
so
reminds me.
magical.
It is when I went raw, it was very similar. I was already disconnected from people, but
Mhm,
because the universe starts talking for the first time
mhm,
in your life, you're not alone. So all the
mhm.
times you're trying to reach out to friends or people you think are friends, is you are missing something in yourself. All
Yeah,
of a sudden, when
exactly.
you put raw foods in, the whole universe switches on,
Mhm.
and you can just sit on a beach or a park, and you are
Yeah,
so full of life
you're
and love.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were just like, and I think a lot of us need that. It's like
Mhm,
finally getting the hug we've been searching for our whole life. And
mhm,
one thing I like wanted to touch on is,
mhm,
as much as people say all these different diets will heal them, like
mhm.
carnivore or Ayurvedic,
Paleo. Yeah.
paleo. I've done paleo. Is none
Mhm.
of these people do podcasts on enlightenment? So you don't see
Yeah.
carnivores getting up and like, I could literally do a whole channel on just the enlightenment of that
Mhm.
happens with the food that everyone
Exactly.
experiences, whereas no other diet does that. So you can come to me with the physical ailments healed, but
Mhm.
and the reason they're usually coming back is because when you have raw foods, is you're not only cleaning out the system, you're working on yourself, and it's not just suppressed per se,
Mhm.
or not being used. I think Dr. Bogolna talks about it really well, where people may be going, all I can eat is chicken, right?
Yeah.
I can't go and eat the raw foods to
Mhm.
stay well. All I can eat is chicken. Well, chicken's not activating the symptoms, but in the background, it's still damaging the gut. And you
Exactly.
don't know that. And when you put these new foods in, your
Mhm.
microbiome isn't ready, or you may be inflamed at the start, but
Mhm.
at least the nutrients will start repairing
Yeah,
versus like avoiding. So there's avoiding to get well, and there's
exactly.
actually going in, doing the
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
connecting to yourself and the
Yeah.
universe. And I think that's something, if anyone's going to decide, and I'm not someone to force anyone into anything because it's
Mhm.
your journey. I mean, I
Mhm.
came through the paleo, the vegan, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Um, but it's to think about the only people you see literally talking even more so about enlightenment
Mhm.
and feeling this connectedness is with the raw, high
It's
raw.
so true. It's so
Mhm.
true. Like that's um those diets, they don't address detox either. There's no cleaning. It's just like
That's right.
switching.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
it's like it's like that avoiding of,
Yeah.
it's like I was just talking before about when juicing isn't a lifestyle, it will stop a lot of what's going on. It'll help you clean, but it'll also stop,
Mhm.
it'll give these organs, especially the gut, a rest, right?
Yeah.
But then you eventually have to put the fibers back in and
Mhm.
rebuild inside.
Mhm.
So there's avoiding or there's actually doing the work.
Stripping
And
down. Hmm.
and no matter who I speak to who does these like raw diets or high raw diets, is the
Hmm.
one thing they say is it's a lot of work, but it's
Hmm.
worth it. Like
It
it's
is.
like, yeah. So hey Tessa. So it definitely is. So when you think of your healing journey,
Mhm.
what is like the one thing that jumps out at you that is like that just impacted you in a way that you was like life changing? I know lots of
Oh
it, but what was
gosh.
there like one moment, or was it
Mhm.
what was that moment? I guess it's like there is a moment for each of us when we go on this that we go, this is it. Like what
Oh
was that for
gosh.
you?
That was probably when I got back from my trip and I was just doing like I did a 3-day water fast when I got back, which was really hard because I'd eaten some cooked food when I was there, and I was on raw before that, like fully
Right.
raw for months before I went, and I'd eaten cooked food because I was in Europe. I mean, there's not really any avocados, so I was like, what am I gonna eat? And then I went there and I ate and I enjoyed it, and it didn't bother me actually. I wasn't bloated. But when I got back, I got really sick. I started to get like really, really sick. And my 3-day water fast was so hard. It was like the hardest fast I've ever done, and that's how I knew it was toxic. And then after that fast, my moment was when I ate a watermelon. And I was like, wow, this is it. I was like, it's raw foods. Because I had experienced the difference
Yeah.
between raw food and cooked food. And I felt fine on cooked food. I was eating high raw, like Freely the Banana Girl. Do you know what
Yep.
I mean? Like I was fruit and then like some rice at night or something.
Yep.
And I felt fine. I felt good. But I knew it was raw because I got really sick and my health started to degrade over that month.
Yeah.
I started to feel like different.
And there's a
Yeah.
value in that. So that's why
Hmm.
don't beat yourself up if you have some cooked food or you have
Hmm.
something that
No, it's
in
a
your
lesson.
brain. Yeah, that's what I see now is ever
Me
since
too.
starting this is no matter what I do or what I choose is it's the clearest lesson. Like I really
Yes.
learn these lessons, and
Yes.
most of the lessons, including my decision to heal myself, which I think happened to you because you were
Mhm.
watching your mum, is it wasn't
Yeah.
taught in lecture or a book. This is like the
No.
more intuitive and
Hmm.
lessons I can learn myself, the stronger I feel like my soul
Hmm.
becomes, but the stronger I become in this physical
Hmm.
plane, in my
Exactly.
ability to look after myself. So, and
Yes.
those lessons come, they're personal,
Hmm.
like they're not very clear. You can't say, look out for the lesson
No.
where, an apple falls off a tree and hits you in the head.
Hmm.
It's like you don't know where
No.
these lessons come from.
And the journey's not linear at all. Like it's
100%.
I was full fruitarian before I went. And like maybe someone would be like, how'd you go back or how'd you eat cooked food again? But it's not, there's different times in your life and a label is so restrictive. Like I say raw vegan because that's what I mostly eat, but I don't like the label because it's like there's no need to put ourselves into a box. We just eat like we're all on this journey and we all eat living foods.
You're such an old
Yeah.
soul. The more you can sit in that space where you
Mhm.
don't judge another, you've actually come further than a fruitarian or
Yeah,
liquidarian or breatharian
exactly.
who's
Like
sitting
whatever
there
you
judging
are.
everyone else. If you are judging people, and I've done it myself, is
Mhm.
it's something later on, a few weeks later, I realized it's work I had to do on myself. And I know it
Exactly.
at the time. At the start, when you first go raw, you're not aware that when people are
Yeah.
triggering you. But when you sit in a space of love and compassion for those around you, and that circles back to being a vegan. And I truly, because I was a vegan, but I was still self-harming I was in psychiatric units a lot. I was still smoking, I was drinking,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, and I wasn't connected to animals. I didn't come connected like I am now. I can
Yeah.
literally look at an animal and animals
Yeah.
run
And
towards
it's
me.
like they have a
Uh,
personality now. And it's like you
oh,
see their soul and you like
yes,
feel their
you
vibe
see
now. I
soul.
never like I have so many cats and before I went raw, I didn't even like
Oh,
cats. Like I
yes,
was
I
like
didn't.
I didn't even like think about them like that, you know?
Yes, and
Hmm.
I think it's for me, veganism, because I'm an animal too,
Hmm.
is about how
Yeah.
much I can love myself and give love to this planet, and then love
Hmm.
pours out for
Hmm.
animals, for myself, for the planet, for everything. And I think
Hmm.
that's why I encompass veganism as self-love. I am a human and I want to love this animal of myself. And
Exactly.
that was like a huge, and that it's all about awakenings, especially when I first went raw. So many awakenings came over me, like that, like time where you jump vibrationally,
Hmm.
you know, because those, like the foods, those raw foods are so much higher. You literally jump into a new reality. You're outdoors a lot. You're spending a lot of time alone. It's just like you're getting these downloads
It's
of
like
who
night and
you
day.
are. It
Hmm.
is.
Hmm.
It's the most
It really
beautiful
is.
experience.
And it changed my face a lot too, to go raw. Like my facial structure, I noticed. Like my nose got smaller and
All the
like
inflammation.
yeah, like everything just really got different. And it's like I think that's because I started smiling more, honestly. Like I think
Yeah,
it's because of how happy it made me. And I wish there was like some science to show how raw foods affected your hormones, because like you said earlier, like there's not that much concrete evidence. There should be more, but it's just like there's so much in the perfect package of a fruit that we cannot like pick apart scientifically. It's straight from God. Like it's straight from nature.
it's straight from God, which
Mhm.
is nature, which is source, which is
Mhm.
spirituality. And
Mhm.
some people go backwards because their soul was meant to. And does that mean in
Mhm.
scientific data that the diet doesn't work for 15% of the people?
Yeah.
Or do we look at it spiritually and say that soul had to take a bit of a turn back before they
Mhm.
come forward? That's why it's like
Exactly.
really hard. I studied science at university, and it's really
Mhm.
hard for me to apply those same principles. What I
Mhm.
will say, because I did go down this path, I did talk about in the last podcast about he's some sort of physicist or engineer
Mhm.
who has his channel called the Electric Universe, but he talks about like the electricity in water, which is H3O2,
Mhm.
and how it's the gel structure and how it's hydrophilic and how it's completely
Mhm.
different. But it's like that electrical aspect, and salamanders and any animal which loses a limb, and this feeds
Mhm.
into what fruit does is and they regrow limbs. Sorry, it loses a limb. Any
Mhm.
animal that can regrow limbs, what
Yeah,
is
like a
common?
starfish.
Yeah, on the
Mhm.
area of injury that is uncommon or less common and not as high in a human who loses a limb is the
Mhm.
amount of electrical conductivity. So
Wow.
once again, energetics, electricity, which is, and these are far out science type people. So this was a
Yeah.
book that I was reading about this electricity that was studied, I think, from the early 1900s, possibly 1800s, where they just put electrodes on the area and were reading the nerves, were sending electricity we can't produce. But people like Dr. Morse talk about regeneration, and this is coming from that electrical output. If you eat just fruits and sit outside, you'll know exactly what we're
Yeah.
talking about here. And that's what is common. So it's like we are tapping into some aspect of that. We're sending
Mhm.
more electricity into the body.
Mhm.
And I mean, does Carillion photography shows that electromagnetic energy
Yeah.
on fruits and vegetables, but also on humans. If you take a photo of somebody who has eaten all fresh foods versus all dead foods, their
Mhm.
electromagnetic energy, or you can have aura photos, but let's stick with Carillion photography. It's the same
Mhm.
thing, but it's not studied by science. There's probably not even enough raw vegans, what they believe.
No,
And then
there's
they have
probably
to
not enough.
classify what is a raw vegan and is a raw vegan who's eating
Mhm.
fruit and the same as one. So, but
Yeah.
if you, they're just some to try and bring the science in. But to me, it's the reason you can't is because it's like the consciousness, the soul,
Mhm. Mhm.
the body. They
Mhm.
all, yeah,
Like there's a deep knowledge. Like our body knows how to process this. Our body knows what to do. And to think that we could recreate the perfection of fruits and the perfection of nature's medicine to me is like, whoa, I can't believe I ever thought that. That like something made in a lab could ever come close to like literally like God's hands making something, like the universe making
yeah,
something so perfectly. And like you look at a tree and it's like, especially if you take any psychedelics, you look outside and it looks like a perfect like computer almost, or like a
yeah.
perfect like geometrical like, and then you look at your phone or something and it looks ridiculous. Like it looks like a fake. Once you become more sensitive to these energies, you start
That's
to
how I.
notice.
Yeah, that's exactly how I
Yeah.
see the world. But as you
Yeah.
said, is if you are eating denser food, you go outside and a lot of the time the sun hurts you and
Yeah, your
blinds you.
eyes are
You
closed
can't
to it.
see it.
Mhm.
The other day I was walking and I'm like looking out into nature, and you walk past a lot of people who are really going through it. That was another thing is when I started eating these
Yeah.
foods and I'd been very sick, I realized very quickly everyone around me is extremely broken and sick.
Mhm.
But anyway, I realized the other day when I was walking that I'm in a completely different reality. Like
Yeah,
we may be
exactly.
crossing paths, but you can
Mhm.
see the density on somebody else and they can't even see what you see. Like
Yeah.
literally all I did, I remember when I first got well, is I wanted to just get up every morning. It was spring. I had
Mhm.
barely been out of bed. I'm full of raw foods. I could literally just look around and everything was singing. It was like
Yeah.
magical, like it was unbelievable. And every time you come inside, like you said, it's just like,
Mhm.
what is this? This
It's
is
what is
dust,
exactly like
dust
what's going
cake.
on?
Like it's like, because you
Yeah.
think about plants or people or
Yeah.
waste becomes dust and we build from dust, right?
Yeah.
And so it was very apparent that you're in something which doesn't give
Mhm.
life.
And it's not like real. Like there's no substance to it. Like all this
Yeah,
like nature is so much more like it's I don't know how
yeah.
to say what I'm saying, but it's like so much more real. It's like, oh, this is what it actually is to be a human being. Like this is you know what I'm saying?
I do, and think there's
Yeah.
like 8 or 9 billion people on this planet at this time, right? And
Mhm.
so fruit and earth has been here billions of years. Like the universe has
Mhm.
been here billions of years. The fruit's been here millions of years. And then you think one human, one fracture, because essentially we
Yeah.
are all source, we are all God, we are all nature, we are all from the one thing. And we're looking at everything as a whole, and we're going to think that one of these, like 9 billion people on this planet, is going to invent a magical pill which
Mhm.
is going to fix everything. That's
Mhm.
what God did. God decided that out of the, and in
Yeah.
our timeline too, it does, that doesn't even compute. Like we're all
No.
chasing this dream, right? Is all of these like
Yeah.
different pills or things that come out, and then
Yeah.
every one of them, these magic bullets,
They all
like
have like
smoking was supposed to be like trendy and cool, and then they find out there's problems. Everything they find out that they make, there's problems. They
yeah.
always put there's risks, but it's because
Yeah.
it's a fracture. Whereas when you look at nature and you look
Mhm.
at, it's basically you're looking at the whole of source. You
Mhm.
can't get a fracture of it to create
No.
think that it's going to make a magic bullet, which is basically saying it's better than nature. It's kind of what I'm
Yeah,
getting at.
and
It's
nothing is no,
impossible.
I agree. That's like my grandpa in the 90s. He got overweight because he was a mountain biker and then he fell into a pothole and he broke his back, so he gained a bunch of weight.
Oh,
And he in the 90s was trying to take fen-phen to lose weight.
oh yeah,
Like he
yeah,
would go
yeah.
to Mexico and get fen-phen. And I'm sure he thought, "Oh, this is it. Like I'm gonna be young and sporty and fit again." And he developed like severe like artery problems in his heart because of the fen-phen, and he had 8 strokes.
Yeah, I was gonna say the
Yeah,
heart, the arrhythmias
it's
and
so
stuff.
hard.
It's like you're an electrical field and you start
Mhm.
putting tablets and you start pushing an organ
Mhm.
or you suppress an organ. So you can
Yeah.
either burn it out or you're just gonna not use it and then the rest of the body has to compensate. That's all
Mhm.
that happens. Now, I will say, um, every medication could be used in some
Mhm.
situation near death, and that's what
Mhm.
we should look at it as. As I
Yeah.
said, like I break my foot, is as it heals, maybe I need to have a brace on it, maybe I need
Mhm.
to have an x-ray to check that it has come back into line, some
Mhm.
pain medication for a couple of days,
Yeah.
but under that I'm having raw foods, I'm
Yeah,
looking after myself. My goal is
exactly.
to get back and not be on those things. If
Yes.
you start being on those things long term, because I was on many of these things long term,
Mhm.
is you haven't got your lifestyle right.
Yeah.
There's more to it. There's definitely more to it. Um, if you constantly need, some people need a little bit of extra
Yeah.
support, but if you need, it's just piling up, then
Mhm.
there's something underlying is not right. Is like,
Yes.
that was very loud.
You shouldn't be on anything for a long
Yeah.
time. Like not even my mom's an herbalist and she even tells her customers, you shouldn't be taking this herb forever. Like it should help you to address the root cause. You shouldn't have to like take it every day for the rest of your life. And that goes for medication too. And a lot of people with asthma especially,
Yes.
like they
So
think they have to take it forever.
they think many medications, like one of the things that became very aware to me, I wasn't even told,
Mhm.
was that I didn't need anything. Like these things that
Mhm.
like I added in hormone replacement after 4 years. I've
Mhm.
got missing organs, but I stopped it for 2 or 3 years. I stopped
Mhm.
all makeup. I stopped body wash. It was just bicarb coconut oil, a bit of apple cider vinegar, rosemary in my
Wow.
hair. Um, I think that's it. Oh, yeah, bicarb washed with, and even there were times when I first went raw where I just rinsed my bowl because it was only fruit and lemon juice. Lemon
Mhm.
juice is going to get rid of it. I had to, because I didn't know who I was or what my body needed, or I'm
Mhm.
just like anything that I felt, I decided like it was like modern day was going to throw something at it. And
Yeah.
I needed to clear all of that
To
to
get away from all of it because it's like everything, once you realize that everything is a lie, you have to start unpacking like what is the
That's
truth.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That hit me when because I've been so sick, 32 years, and all these top experts, and then I'm at rock bottom. I can't even use my brain. I can barely get out of bed. People think I'm going to die. I think I'm going to die. I could barely function. I healed myself with these raw foods, and I
Wow.
was like, well, if this is the case, what have I been doing? So that's why I
Yeah,
got rid of everything. I'm like,
exactly.
what isn't a lie? What is
Yeah.
truth? And then you have to, it can make you, it can also cause problems because you just like, what? But it's a process. Like
Mhm.
you then realize that you can get your confidence back and make the choices as what you choose to
Yes.
have in your
In the
life. Who you,
beginning, it's like
yeah,
super
it's like, yeah,
jarring. Yeah,
it
it's like,
is.
what's
It was
happening?
like,
Yeah.
why did I go to
Yeah.
school? Why did
Because
I read a
yeah,
book?
exactly. You're
That's
like,
what
who
it
can I
felt like.
listen to? Like, who, what am
Yeah.
I, like, I was in college, or I'm still in college, but I transferred, but I was taking classes, like, I was going to be a biology major at San Diego State, and I was already raw. And so I was like doing all this, and I was just every second I was in that school, like walking around, I was like, why am I here? It was like you said, like when you're raw, you intuitively like things that you're not things are that are not in your path, they leave your path so much quicker.
They have to. It's like
Yeah.
it becomes so clear, and it's really hard
Hmm.
as well. It's better now because I really believe the reason I didn't read or follow anyone, it's only now
Hmm.
that I've gotten this confidence in what I
Hmm.
do because
Hmm.
everything I realized had imprinted on me in my life, and I thought it was truth. And I realized it's not truth. It's just
No,
regurgitated from studies on people who aren't even eating the same diet as I am.
exactly.
And then 10 years
Exactly.
later, they say that that's causing cancer. It's like this, like, like
Yeah.
they might say this is the way, eat this way. But look,
Hmm.
the truth of the matter is what hasn't changed is eat right, exercise, be around good people, have low
Hmm.
stress,
Hmm.
be outdoors. That's never changed.
No,
Like, and have
that's
good sleep,
the
sorry, say that.
yes.
That's like if something that has like stood the test of time, that applies to
Mhm,
animals, that applies to
mhm.
us. I'm like okay with that. But as soon as people start going, oh, this study showed this, and you need this component and this, and I'm like,
It's
yeah,
like
give
so
2 years
cherry-picked
time.
too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, in 50 years' time, this will be the
Yeah.
complete opposite. This will be what caused the problem, and there'll be a whole
Yes.
new drug to fix a whole generation which has been
Yeah.
following. And I was
And
like,
how like mhm.
it's like you get clarity. Everything becomes like truth or rubbish. Like there's no in between. Like, oh yeah, I'll think on that. It's like, no, that is just
Yeah,
garbage.
you realize and it's like how long have these foods or these new drugs been tested for? Like since they were invented. Like how can you trust something that's been invented like 50 years ago? When
But even
yeah.
and they come, each of them comes out with side effects, which are really just
Um,
effects. So the
it's
effect is that,
ridiculous.
there's something which suppresses some part of the body.
Yeah.
Plus, you get dizziness, headaches, feel faint, blood pressure issues,
No.
and then people like myself end up needing tablets for all of those. And then you
Mhm.
get the like GERD and digestive issues and losing your stomach from another
Yeah.
medication. So you need another medication to treat that. It's like before you know
Not
it, you're on
fun.
it like 25 different things, plus needing supplements. And then when I came off all that, and it's a process, I didn't just wake up. It's like these things started really hurting me, and
Mhm.
you just eat the raw foods, and everything's fixed in like 6 weeks, and you're like,
That's ridiculous. It's so
what?
true.
What? You're like,
That's
what was going on? Why did I go to? This
yeah.
is why I went. Why did I go to school? Why did I
Yeah.
study science? Why did I
Yeah.
have professors? Why, you start. That's that awakening,
Mhm.
right?
When it was
Like
common sense the whole time. It
that's
was
it. That
just simplicity. Yeah,
that's
it
the
makes you
biggest.
feel like this whole reality is like a joke. It's like, what are
Mm,
we in
and you
right
can't
now?
get why other people can't see it because you go,
Yeah.
"Oh, well." They're like, "How did you get well?" And you're like, "Oh, I just ate raw foods."
Yeah.
And
They're
you
like,
assume that they're with their problems gonna wanna eat raw foods too, but they
"Mhm.
can't see it. And
No,
that's why
yeah.
it's an awakening. Like
Mhm.
it's people who are in a very dense reality, I believe, can only be touched by science still. So they wanna
Yeah.
see results. They wanna
Yes.
see how many people with I've got chronic fatigue, how many people with chronic
Uh-huh.
fatigue have got over it with this diet. and you
Yes.
can say hundreds, and there's lots of people doing it, and then they'll believe it, and that's a gateway, right? That's all right to
Mhm.
get through, but once you're on it,
Yes,
it becomes
I know the
so
before and
obvious.
afters. Yeah,
Yes,
that's like why I posted. Yeah,
that's
because then people will
right.
be like, "Oh, well, I guess if that worked for you, keep doing it, I guess." But most
That's
people
right.
also they can't accept it either. They're like, I had this guy comment and he was like, "You're like a laptop that's been unplugged and your battery's draining, girl. Like, if you keep eating raw foods, you're just gonna like die." And I'm like people really say this under my stuff a lot. They're like, "You're young, so you're okay, but if you keep eating raw foods, you're gonna die." And it's like,
But you triggered them.
where is this coming from though? Like who's telling them that? I just
Well, that's
it's
I believe it's part of, like, if it's because anytime
Mhm.
I've been reactive, it's work I have to do on myself.
Yeah,
I can think
exactly.
at the time, "No, no, no, it's you. No, it's never someone else,
No,
it's
it's
me."
never someone
And
else.
when yeah, so
Mhm.
and that's our job as, like,
Yeah.
on the spiritual aspect of it, I
Yes.
believe in our path is we cop the crap. But in saying that, I had a live, and for some reason, I went live on YouTube on Sundays,
Mhm.
sometimes I make some food, and all of a sudden, all these carnivores are like, they're like, "Stop saying all this stuff. You look
Oh no.
terrible." I'm like, "I look terrible. Did you see when I ate meat? Did you?"
Yeah.
What, like,
Yeah.
and I'm not telling them to go raw. I'm just doing my thing. I'm like, "You do
Yes.
you. But don't
Exactly.
you dare come at me and tell me what to
Yes.
do and tell me
Yeah.
I look bad when
Yeah.
I go on the reels." I said, "Go on the story." I go,
Yeah.
"I was near death." And I said,
Yes.
"And you're telling," I said, "Don't go." I said, "There's a million carnivore people. Just go, go, go."
Mhm. I
Like,
know, I've never went and commented under a carnivore person's post and been like,
no.
"You're gonna die." Like, "You're
No, but,
malnourished."
when I first went raw, I probably would have if I had the confidence, but then I think of that as I have to work on myself. You have to, because
Yeah.
at
Like,
one
why did
stage
that trigger you? Mhm.
I was them, or not
Mhm.
carnivore, but eating a lot of meats and stuff,
Mhm.
and you can't reach them. The only way you reach people is by shining. You can't tell
Exactly.
people, you've gotta shine.
Yes.
They've gotta go, "That person's never sick, they're always happy, they've
Yeah.
always energy." Why?
That's what
Why?
that's how my mom turned me. She never
Yeah,
told
I
me
love
once.
that.
Like, she never was like, "You should do this." Like, she was just like, "Oh, well, maybe try just eating mangoes," or, like, she would just make me a smoothie. She'd be like, "This is what I drink every day, I love it."
I like
And she
that.
was always happy running around the house and, like, it wasn't even it's just her vibration, honestly. Like, being around
Yeah,
someone with a raw food vibe, it's like, "Whoa," it's like a sun shining at you. It's
it is.
beautiful.
It is, and that
Mhm.
triggers some people, but that's part of that, you know,
Yes.
transition for them.
And it's
So
good because it breaks up the reality a little bit, the 3D, to have one of us walking around.
I agree, and also, like, what you want is to be
Mhm,
getting people to question. So the amount of
mhm,
people who said, "When I first met you, I went away and Googled what a raw vegan was, how it was done," that's what I wanna do, and you can't do that by going, "You need to eat raw,
mhm.
you're wrong, what you're doing is killing you," and that makes actually makes
No.
me feel bad in my heart, and if that something makes me feel bad in my
Yeah,
heart,
me
I
too.
don't align with it and I don't do it, because that's acidic,
No.
out of vibration, low vibe. It causes
Mhm.
disease. Like, you can, when you're raw, you feel everything.
Yes,
So
you're so sensitive, especially fasting. Like, I started my watermelon fast today, and I'm just like
oh!
yeah, and so I'm like you know what I mean? I'm kinda
Yes,
like,
especially
"Whoa,
at the
I'm feeling it." I'm feeling the fasting
you
vibe, and
feel
it's like
electric on
I feel so
watermelon.
good. Yeah, I feel like, ooh, like I wanna go run a mile, but I'm doing it because my muscles, because I tore myself in yoga, and so I wanna
Oh,
just rest and just let my muscles really get hydrated and recover. Because 'cause I've been overworking for so long,
smart.
like, just
Yeah,
thinking, "Oh, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this." But it's like a finally a season for me where I can, like, calm down and say, "No, you can just be you, and you can
good.
relax," because it's the programming,
It
definitely.
is.
It's the female programming too. Like you have to be tired
Yeah,
all the time. But yeah, that's
yeah.
why I'm doing this fast to sort of take myself back and say, wait, because I eat a lot of like sprouted nuts and seeds. And it's just like it's gotten dense for me recently. I'm ready to go back to low
Especially if
fat
you're
for now.
gone into
Mhm.
summer,
Yeah, it
you
doesn't feel
would
right
definitely,
anymore.
yeah, it wouldn't
Yeah.
feel in alignment. So that's amazing. How long are you gonna do it for?
I don't know. I'm thinking like 20 to 30 days if I can. Yeah. And take the
Wow!
parasite herbs because I've never pooped out a parasite. So I'm
Do you
like,
wanna know
yeah.
do you wanna know mine? So
Yeah, I
I
do.
I never did any. I'm no good with herbs. They
Mhm,
turn on my nervous system too much.
I know
So
you've
I
said that.
did, yeah, raw foods and fresh herbs, yes. Dried,
Mhm.
just
Doesn't
it's
agree.
too much. But I love fresh herbs. Oh my God, so
Mhm,
good. Any that I can get my hands on. So I did raw foods. I did like juicing.
mhm.
It was 47 days and I tried to eat, didn't work. So I kept going up to 80 days. I did
Wow.
like I've done lots of periods of time on watermelon and grapes
Mhm.
and nothing.
Grapes.
And then
Yeah.
when I started to add food back in after
Mhm,
the juice cleanse, not during the juice cleanse,
mhm.
all of a sudden, every time I went to the bathroom, things were coming out of me. I wonder as well if like
Whoa.
the parasites from, like
Yeah.
I was having a lot of pumpkin seeds.
Yeah,
Um, it
that'll do
wasn't
it.
quite I was doing like more green juices. I was doing denser foods, but all of a
That's what I've
sudden,
been doing recently, but I
yeah,
just yeah.
and but on my fruit journey, nothing really came
Mhm.
out once I got the denser foods. There's about a year where just
Wow.
sporadically, and some were like really long. Some I rarely take photos of things I call negative vibrationally because I don't
Mhm.
like holding on. I like to just I've everything around me. I want high. I want to
Yeah.
let go. I don't want to capture it forever. But some
Mhm.
there's got to be some photos somewhere because some were just like mind blowing. And as
That's
well, the
insane.
thing is, before and so what's that 3 years in of doing it, I started to release. But I
Yeah,
also
I'm
know
not that far. Mhm.
that parasites have a purpose. Like they don't eat good tissue. They only eat like necrotic,
Yeah.
dead, acidic tissue. So they're actually kind of doing you a favor. So when you get to
Wow.
a level that you have got so little of that they can't
Wow.
survive,
I've
because yeah,
never
they
thought
won't
about
touch.
that.
Yeah, viruses too. So if you get a cold, that's
Yeah.
why it's called detox because
Mhm.
the viruses will only attack the weakened cells. If you've got
Mhm.
strong, healthy cells, they will not be the DNA will not be taken over by a virus. And so in a way, it's doing you and I like to see the positive in everything. So
Mhm.
you will
That's
release parasites, I
I know,
believe.
I'm, like, hoping with the watermelon that I do, because I just, like I've been eating so much dense food, and when I first went raw, I was eating just, like, pure 80-10-10, like, just, like, nothing else for a while, and it was, like then winter came, and I was like, "Oh, I'm ready for some coconut yogurt or some soup or whatever, flax
Yeah, I'm like
chips."
that in winter.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it made me feel
I do
great
too.
too. So I was eating that all winter. And then recently I was just, especially with my job that I got this stress, like this, and the stress made me inflamed. And I'm just
It
like,
does.
it's time to just strip it all away and just become new again. And that's the great thing about fruits is they will renew you, like
They
deeply,
will.
deeply cleansing, especially watermelon. So I'm really excited. I'm
I'm
definitely going to share
excited
more
for
about
you.
this cleanse that I'm going to go
Yes,
on.
I'd
Yeah.
love us to talk about it. So,
Yeah.
what was I going to say? Also, I believe there's a process to this. So,
Mhm.
I believe it's healthier and safer for someone to get into this because you've been doing it a year
Yeah. Yeah.
and love it. Like literally
Yes.
appreciate it, love themselves, love the food, then like go hardcore watermelon for like 5 years
Yeah.
and but then really struggle, like
Yeah.
really like it's better to go and as you're like letting go of things that don't serve you, you're still doing
Mhm.
denser foods, and then you find it
Mhm.
easier to go back and forth to
Yeah,
denser
no,
and
that's what
no
I'm
too.
noticing. Like fasting used to be way more harder mentally because I was like, should I be doing this? Because we're always afraid of like
Yeah,
it's a human urge to want to eat, and then our standard American diet or standard, whatever, the propaganda is like you want to eat 3 meals a day, you want to always be full, it's unhealthy to be hungry. So that programming was hard for me to let go of in the beginning. So fasting
yeah,
was like mentally like a struggle, but now it's like I'm so deep into it that it's like I know it's good for me, so I can kind of
you still
accept
need
it
to trust.
and accept what fasting is and what cleansing is.
That's
And
right.
it's beautiful.
I think that's important as well. I think that's important. So this has been amazing. Thank you so much,
Yes, thank you
Gracie.
so much for having me. It was so fun. I'm so glad. I'm like really charged up today because of my watermelon.
I bet you are, and I hope you come back soon and you tell us how this watermelon's
Yes,
going.
I will. After the end of my cleanse, I'll book another one and then we can talk about it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, and thank you
Okay.
everyone for watching, and have a good evening or day. Oh, I'll be back. Anyone watching, I'll be back. I'm just about to make my lunch in about, I think, what are we? Like 50 minutes. So I'll be back. But bye.
Bye. Thank you.